There are those that just want to be left alone, and those that just won't leave them alone. Which one are you? The Ernest Hancock Show.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. You know, just before the show, I apologize, my voice is shot. I got a call from Senator Karen Johnson telling me that years ago, about 2 years ago, senior editor of Freedom's Phoenix, Pal Gamble, and I helped her write legislation that provided for our commemorative, our centennials coming up next year. And we knew that we wanted to get gold, silver, copper into minting for the state. And the best way to do that, we'll make a commemorative coin that will be minted 99.99999 whatever percent gold. It will be Arizona will be designed this way and so on, and minted in sufficient quantity to supply all public demand. Now, they passed this. There was only one vote against it. Out of 90 legislators, one. And it just so happened it was a legislator that knew that Pal and I wrote it. Because as libertarians, they just know, oh, we're getting set up. I just know it. So what happened was this passed. She got a call yesterday from the Secretary of State's office saying that, look, we're getting ready to do this. We want to, talk to you about, getting the law changed and your support of whatever, because we can't afford to buy the gold. Now, of course, they'll sell the gold, as they get it. But they're like, what would you be supportive if we did it in silver and copper or something? So we're just going, look, man, we knew that if we were able, as a state, you want to talk about having your own currency, you just mint it. It's 1 ounce. It says up to 1 ounce. So it could be, various tenth of ounces. You could mint whatever you wanted, but in quantity sufficient to supply all public demand. That was the key, and they kept trying to take it out of there at Legislative Council. But we're going to talk about it in the second hour, right after we have Bob Templeton, the owner of Crossroads of the West Gun Show. He had a big gun show here in Phoenix, and we're going to be introducing the walletvoting.com concept there. Walletvoting.com. You go to the top of Freedom's Phoenix right now and watch the video that 4409 did. Fantastic. Gives a good explanation of what we're doing and why. These are our solutions. Now, the thing is that we have other people that have other solutions that they would like to share or even impose. If that is going to be the case, we need to know how that would happen. Is it in the structure of government that we have now? Would it be changed? Would you eliminate this government and just go to states? Would you go to a global government? How would these decisions be made? Well, we have on Sharleen B. She is the global release coordinator for Zeitgeist, moving forward, the third installment of the Zeitgeist movies. Now, I want to ask you, Sharleen, go ahead and help me understand if we, pick a problem, anything, the quality of the air, the water, healthcare, whatever it is. How do we arrive at a solution? And are we doing a solution for the country, a group, a club, or the individual? I mean, what is our goal and how are we going to address it?
Okay. I'll try and say this as simple as possible.
Please.
The Venus Project plan is, first of all, to declare that all of the Earth's resources the common heritage of all people. Is it fair to say that the air doesn't know boundaries? The water doesn't know borders. So we're in this together. Nature is joined, and we all need it to survive as a species. So we're saying the most intelligent way to structure our society globally is that we take into account the Earth's resources. So that would begin with, it's not about politicians. It's not about centralized control. It's about doing a survey and audit of all of the Earth's resources. Where do we stand with energy? Where do we stand with our water supply, with our soil erosion? And have all of that input to a giant database, which right now we have the technology to do. Most people are not aware of the current state of technology, what we're really able to do, because if there's not a profit to be made in it, it's not going to be done. So we have to keep remembering that we're not at the highest level of technology we should be operating on the Earth right now because of the profit motive.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go right there. Okay, we have the, IBM, man, we're connecting the world, man. We got it going on. And I'm going, okay, let's assume that they do. who's going to be on this committee or group, and what's the goal? And because I can see this is going to be politicized like crazy.
Well, see, that's where the confusion lies. It isn't about human opinion or power or ego.
Oh, yeah,
It's about, yes, human beings can play that out. But in terms of the process, it's just scientific. It's just a measuring of the Earth's resources. And then by using our highest state of technology, and when you take the profit motive out, people think a lot differently of it. We could be using geothermal right now. We could be using wind, but there isn't the market share because there isn't a profit in it right now. It doesn't mean that we don't have the technology for that. So the good example Peter always uses, if right now all of the banks were bulldozed and Wall Street, it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference for the same amount of resources we have on the planet, the same amount of intelligence and technology and science. That wouldn't change.
I think it would get better.
The monetary system is an artificial contrivance. And we're making decisions based on that rather than the carrying capacity of the Earth.
Okay, let me go ahead and we got a really good example. Let's go ahead and talk about climate change. What used to be global warming, and I got to kind of throw that in the dustbin because it keeps getting colder. Now, a year ago when Al Gore came here to Phoenix,
which is, by the way, part of the destabilization. The fact that it's getting colder some places but hotter others, like Russia, is part of a weather destabilization pattern we're seeing.
This is my point. Rising. This is my point. When he came, they were making signs. And they asked me, they go, Ernie, well, what do you think a sign should be? And I go, I just ask one question. Put a sign that says, what happens when it gets cold? Then what? How do you argue? Oh, well, that's part of global warming. Is it getting cold in some areas? Or we're going to change it to climate change as opposed to warming. And I remember in the 70s when I was going into school, we were going into an ice age. Well, nobody ever wants to address the fact that it might have something to do with the cycles of the sun. But the point is that to say that we're going to have some kind of a definitive, objective accumulation of data that's not going to be politicized, all I have to do is think over the last few years of what's happened with the global warming issue. Here in Tucson at the University of Arizona is where a lot of the WikiLeaks came out on all the cables that they were kind of making this up as they were going along. It's not that I'm saying that it's not happening or even what is causing it. It's that I do not trust collectives and people that give themselves some kind of a elite badge for them to make a decision that's not in what they perceive to be in their or in the collective's best interest, because they never take into account the rights of the individual. You're right. It's always a species thing. It's always and for the greater good of the most and all that kind of stuff, and screw the individual. So I'm going, okay, as long as we understand that's where we're at, then you can see where the opposition is going to come from. It's going to come from those that just want to be left alone. No, I don't want to be forced at the point of a gun. That's what it's going to come down to be able to fund whatever it is that you want to do, to comply with whatever it is that you got, that I don't get to have any property rights to what's mine. Because when I talk to people in the Zeitgeist movement, I have to ask, I'm going, okay, am I allowed to own my shirt? Am I allowed to own the loom that made the cloth? Am I allowed to own the property that the loom sits on? At what point am I not allowed to own property? And who protects it? That's a good question for you.
Okay, well, first of all, am I violating your rights if I'm saying forcing you to have clean air? Is that forcing you to have something that's a basic human need? So it isn't about imposing an opinion on someone. If you don't eat, you will die.
Well, if you don't need anything from me, property rights it works like this. If you are violating my air, if your water goes through your property onto mine and it's polluted, well, then I have a cause of action when I have property rights. If I don't have property rights, who do I go to? How is it I got some collective that's going to pinky swear fix it for me? We're getting into the meat of it, and we're starting to understand each other. And I think, the last segment here, we'll have some very interesting conversation. You guys stay right there. We're just starting to get into the meat of it because we both want the same thing. We want clean air. We want clean water. We want to be left alone, I would think. We want to be able to sustain the species. How? We'll talk about it when we come back.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the information that detail the real news between the lines of propaganda about government policies and the true relationship we all have with coercive governments. Learn the true condition of our economy, innovations and technological breakthroughs in energy, health, computer science, and space travel. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media, the media that is so last century. Corporate media has evolved into nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but we now have a fantastic alternative. FreedomsPhoenix.com provides constant news updates on the issues that affect our lives in the most important ways. Our liberty and our property are under constant attack, and FreedomsPhoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda while encouraging the participation of our readers. Join us at FreedomsPhoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. FreedomsPhoenix.com, where the revolution between the ears has already matured.